Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today we're going to check out something from Emperor Samael 666. Sunshine Ward is a post-punk crust song that influenced several crust and black metal bands. Also, drug use and squatting is common among the crust subculture. Interesting context there. Let's dive into this. The band is called Amebix, and this came out in 2008. All right, let's kick it, see what's going on here. I take that back. 1983 is when this, I was like, 2008, that seems too late to be influential. 1983.
Roses are red, sometimes violets are blue, but we're always puking on cider and glue. People say that we're twisted, you know it's not true. We just get so mad when there's fuck all to do.
It's very dreary, not what I would expect from crust.
Life in this building is freezing and wet. If I once had a brain, then I seem to forget. Cause just when I caught it, it slipped through the net. Now
Very wide vocal delivery there,
no time for regret.
projecting from the back of the mouth rather than the front. Like a heartbeat. Well, so far, things are changing. Locked onto this one idea. Tom's over here. Why does it sound like the vocalist for Ash Inspire? There's also a lot of layered screams, as if catastrophe has happened and people are running. Back to this dreary sound of the intro, the opening. Oh, bringing the compression, the distortion into this sounds. Timing is a little rough in this section. Yeah, in this slowing down as well, there was some temporal issues too, which I guess is just on par for underground punk scene. Imperfections, especially with time, but even in melodic playing, it's just less of a focus on perfection. But yeah, that was an interesting track right there. I guess the first thing we got to talk about is the shifting atmosphere of this. The song kicks off with melancholy dreariness at the very least. It's heavy and drenched in a type of sorrow or sadness, but there's also a lethargy in there as well. It's a weight, whatever that weight may imply. It's definitely negative though, and it's something that pulls the song down and crushes it beneath its weight. We have almost 2 minutes, a solid third of this song, just with this slower, drearier concept. And it's fairly simple too, primarily guitar and vocals. The vocals here are also interesting in that there's energy in them. With this kind of sound, I kind of associate something a bit more grungier, or maybe for a modern take on that, something closer to Billie Eilish's perceived lower energy, something that might have some slurring of words or some airiness, generally low in perceived volume. Even though the producer is going to crank that volume up, it's going to have the essence of something close to a whisper. Instead, projecting from the back of the throat, big open mouth sounds, and getting this large sound overall. It's very interesting to pair with this. It ends up creating a bit of energy within a section that feels lacking of. Not too sure how to interpret it, but I can't say I've heard anything like it either, which makes it quite unique in my mind. We have 2 minutes of this, minor variation on the ideas, not really generally building it in any way. From here, we shift over into noise. There's a lot of sound here. The guitars are distorted, they're massive, they're crunchy, they're gritty. The drums come in a bit larger than they were, and our vocalist sounds like the vocalist of Ashenspire. I don't know why. I don't know what part of it feels like that. Maybe it is the harsh technique. Maybe it's the accent poking through the harsh vocals. I don't know. It could be a combination of all of this. If someone had told me, yeah, dude, this is the Ashenspire vocalist time traveling, I would not doubt it for a second. It sounds identical. It's wild. But all of this comes together in a very uniform idea. Maximize sound with minimal composition. It is, above all else, atmosphere. It's sound, it's texture. When I listen to the guitar riffs, sometimes It's just one note over and over and over. Sometimes we'll contrast that with a higher note, back to the lower note, to a higher note, back to a lower note, to a higher note, back to a lower note. A lot of the riffs are based around this. It is either pedal tone or a contrast to the pedal tone. We do eventually have an escalating idea, arpeggiating upwards as we move out of this section back into a dreary one. And then the next section has some moving guitar riffage to it, but a lot of it is still based around a pedal tone in general. We have this big energy here, and as I mentioned, escalates into, well, back to the beginning. This drives into a combination of the opening portion with the heavier section. I thought this was rather well done. I enjoyed the way these meshed together, and it took something that felt aggressive prior and merged it with the melancholy from earlier in the track and found something that was relatable. I found it easy to empathize with this character, if the song were a character, or maybe empathizing with the vocalist or the narrator of the story or whatever. What seemed originally to just be anger or discontent, possibly thrashing out in angst, can be seen as having this soft, vulnerable underlying reason for it, as if the anger is simply the only way to project or explore this emotion. They don't understand how to be sad and vulnerable, so they lash out instead. Pairing the two together was wildly effective despite the simplistic composition to everything. And I think that's one thing that punk tends to do really well, and I think, myself included, throw punk under the bus often for being simple. And that's coming from a punk fan. I like some punk, I like pop punk, but I do often deride it as simple music I like. And sometimes I think this song is a good indicator of when simplicity is used effectively to create something artistic and emotionally engaging and moving. And I think I need to keep that in mind more often. The song ramps up at the end and concludes with a ton of energy, taking this idea that they had of mixing the emotions and just ramping the intensity up tenfold as the song gets faster than ever. If I look at this exclusively through the lens of the emotional storytelling, it's somebody wrought with emotions completely overcome, with feelings that they don't want to work through, don't want to deal with, and them boiling over. That's what I get out of this. I think it's incredibly well done, though not necessarily my cup of tea. Something that I enjoy from Arm's Reach. I enjoy it artistically, but sonically it's a little rough around the edges. The production on this could be cleaner, could be clearer. I think you can still retain the gritty sound that it wants while balancing the instruments a little better. The timing at the end was a little off. There's quite a few imperfections in this that for some is going to elevate the music. It's going to give it that human feeling that they want out of it. Some of this is probably due to it being recorded in 1983. So there's a possibility that this was all done in one take. But there's also the possibility that they didn't have as much money to work with the production side, and they got what they could financially, and that's why it's a little rougher around the edges, a little fuzzier, not quite as clear as I would like. Regardless, though, it ends up creating something very human, quite flawed, in maybe a good way. Let me check out some lyrics for this, and then we're going to wrap this one up. All right. So we have a track that is about people who are trying to forget about their woes and troubles by slipping into another world. It is made clear that they come back out of this other world and begin to see the reality around them. And all of this happens within the Sunshine Ward. Part of me took this ward to be a real hospital of sorts, but I think when you look at the imagery of coming down from a high, of your heightened exploration, returning back to a realism, and the context originally given to me about this track, about squatting, I think this is just an abandoned building that a lot of people are getting high in to ignore the realities of the world around them. And it creates a really sad story overall. The first one says, roses are red, sometimes violets are blue, but we're always puking on cider and glue. People say that we're twisted. You know it's not true. We just get so bad when there's nothing to do. Talks about life in this building being freezing and wet. I have to wonder if they aren't also homeless, but it could just be that this is where they choose to do their drugs. It's under surveilled. Maybe it's a safe place to do it where you're not going to get caught. And it just happens to not be a fantastic area. Maybe there's water leaks or something in it. It says, if I once had a brain, I seem to forgot. Because just when I caught it, it slipped through the net. Now we sedate ourselves slowly. No time for regret. Here is where we go into the instrumental break. This is the first heavy section of the track. And this next, well, 2 stanzas away, they mention that everyone in the Sunshine Ward is screaming. And I completely forgot about the overlapping screams on this track. I wonder what this is supposed to imply. Is this about bad trips? Is this just about the pain of existence? Is this about the fear and anxiety of coming down from a high and remembering responsibilities, or just your surroundings? How dull, mundane, and painful life can be for those with less affordances in their life. I don't know. It's certainly an affecting part of this track, and I think it bleeds into why the ending is as powerful as it is. There's a provocative nature that presents a reality for a lot of people, and it presents it in a very raw, human way. This is definitely a song. This is definitely music, but I do think it elevates a little past that. And honestly, I was talking about the rawness of the production and the performance earlier, and I think that bleeds into all of this too. Every single aspect of this track, from the production choices to what is being played, even the simplistic nature of the melodies in this, to the use of the screams, all of it bleeds into something that just feels very fallible, very human. And when you set it against the backdrop of people with less opportunities using drugs in order to make days just a little more palatable, it's a little bit more livable, and pairing that against the screams, which could imply so many things, it just creates, I think, a very strong reflection on realities for a lot of people. After this instrumental break, though, the energy comes down a little bit. We sing about the Sunshine Ward. There's laughing inmates in there. People filling their lives with sulfate and beer. We've tried every way to make real life less clear. As stupidity sets in, the truth disappears. Just trying to get rid of real life. It's just not engaging. It's not exciting. And for some, it may even be painful. But then as the energy creeps up in the music, we see that the Sunshine Ward is screaming. There's people crawling to the door as reality creeps back and we can't take any more. Everybody's just stuck on the floor. It says that the happy dream shatters and falls to the floor. The doubt crawls in and we just can't ignore. Should we carry this farce on just as before? Start living for life's sake outside the ward. Wonders if all of this is worth it. Or if maybe we should try to integrate into traditional society. engage with the normal life that everyone else does. It doesn't have a resolution. It just poses the question, is this really worth living? Is this life? Is the other thing life? Is working the 9 to 5 and being completely tired and unable to pay bills and living paycheck to paycheck living? Is it any more living than crashing out on a concrete floor every day, high off your rocker? Who knows? It doesn't make judgments. It doesn't give an answer. It shows this for what it is. The truth of the situation, blemishes and all. Once again, I think there's a very human notion about that, to not pretend to have the answers, to simply hold up a mirror and say, is this worthwhile? These are my thoughts, at least, on Sunshine Ward from Amebix. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this song? Let me know. Put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add, into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.